Hey, Freddy with CJ Pony Parts. These EcoBoost F-150s already make a ton of horsepower coming from the factory, but there's no such thing as too much power. Today we're going to be installing the CPE Delta Core front mount intercooler to lower intake temperatures for more power while allowing us to get the most out of future modifications. The core of this monster CPE Delta Core front mount intercooler measures 21 inches tall, 17 inches wide, and 4 inches thick with fully cast end tanks to maintain proper airflow and pressure. It comes with everything you need for installation and with significantly lower intake temperatures, giving you more power and safer power. And today we're going to be installing it on this 2013 EcoBoost F-150. Tools you'll need for this installation: 1/4 inch ratchet, 8mm socket, a short extension, 3/8 ratchet, 10mm socket, 11mm socket, 13mm socket, 14mm socket, 15mm socket, 3/16 hex key or Allen key, an extension, 19mm wrench, and a panel removal tool or a flathead screwdriver. One of the great things about working on a truck like this is you actually don't need to put it up in the air to do a lot of the work. Just like this intercooler, we didn't need to put it on the lift, we just have it up for filming purposes. First thing we're going to do is remove all the clips securing in this splash panel. You can either use a flathead screwdriver or a turn removal tool to remove these. And then the ones back here just simply twist out. With the splash guard out, we're going to remove the front air dam by removing the two 15mm nuts that secure it in place. We can now remove the bypass hose by twisting the gray clip and pulling it off, and also disconnect the connector going to it. Remove all 4 hose clamps from the hot side intercooler pipes. And now the other coupler. With a flathead screwdriver, remove the retainer ring that holds on the cold side intercooler pipe. And remove the pipe. Now up on top of the truck, we can remove the bracket securing the top of the intercooler by removing the two 10mm bolts. You can now remove the top plate of the intercooler. Remove the blow-off valve connector from the intercooler. We're at the point now where we can drop the intercooler. We just need to remove 2 bolts. Now I'm going to secure it with this pole jack because I don't have any friends to help me right now and it's kind of heavy. So I'm going to support it just so it doesn't fall down while I remove the 2 bolts. There's one 13mm bolt on each side of the intercooler bracket. With both bolts removed, we can lower the intercooler. Here you can see a side-by-side comparison of the factory intercooler and the CPE Delta Core intercooler. The CPE Delta Core intercooler is significantly taller and thicker. It's definitely going to do a much better job of cooling the air than the factory intercooler. We're going to now begin assembling the CPE Delta Core intercooler. First thing we're going to do is install the brackets. You're going to install these brackets to where they're arcing towards the middle and the nut is on the bottom, just like this. And use the provided hardware to secure them. Then tighten the bolts with a 14mm socket. Then thread on one stud to each bracket. We're going to transfer over the rubber grommets from the factory mounts to the CPE intercooler. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Install the studs, one on each side. And transfer over the bottom grommet from the factory intercooler to the CPE intercooler. Tighten it with a 19mm wrench. Then put on the grommet. Same thing on the other side. With an 8mm socket, we're going to remove the factory blow-off valve from the factory intercooler. Then twist it counterclockwise and pull it out. CPE includes two blow-off valve plates. One is to mount on the intercooler so you can mount the factory blow-off valve to it. The other is a block-off plate if you want to run an aftermarket blow-off valve. We're obviously going to be using this plate because we're going to be using the factory blow-off valve. Install it using the provided hardware. And tighten down the bolts with a 3/16 hex key. We're actually not going to be reusing this factory blow-off valve entirely. We're only going to be reusing this part, so we're going to remove it by taking the two 8mm screws off. Then install the blow-off valve onto the adapter with the provided hardware. And tighten the bolts with a 3/16 hex key. Finally, install the drain plugs in the bottom of the intercooler with a 3/16 hex key. Put the lower bracket on the bottom of the intercooler. Make the grommets pop through. And she's ready to go in the truck. All right, now you will probably need some help with this. You now lift the intercooler into place. Yep. And tighten up the bolts. Push back on the intercooler and then slide the upper mount down into place. And push it onto the grommets. Secure the mount with the factory hardware. Reconnect the blow-off valve. Since we're no longer using the factory blow-off valve assembly, we can actually remove the hose that went from the blow-off valve to the intake tube. Just twist on the gray clip counterclockwise and push off. CPE supplies a cover and a hose clamp to go over the barb that came off the factory hose so there's no leak. Then tighten up the hose clamp. Reconnect the intercooler pipes, starting with the cold side pipe. Push it onto the intercooler. Then install the factory retaining ring. Push it down to where it clips in, and it's nice and secure. We can now install the couplers for the hot side pipes. Take the provided hose clamps and install the larger one and smaller one on the coupler. Install the smaller side on the pipe and the larger side on the intercooler. And tighten up the hose clamps with an 11mm socket. With the intercooler fully installed, we can now reinstall the air dam. And the last step is to reinstall the splash guard. And your installation's finished. And now we'll demonstrate the blow-off valve. The CPE Delta Core front mount intercooler is installed as expected. Fitment was really good, mounted up super easy, it looks great, but it is important to note that you do remove the stock blow-off valve muffler and recirculation assembly, and it does vent to atmosphere, so it is significantly louder than the factory blow-off valve. Installation should take about 2 to 3 hours, and before you know it, you'll be heading down the road.